Hello everybody, welcome back to the Crypto Coffee channel. This is Matt, and today I have something new to share with you. It's a really cool tool developed by some community members. Some developers in the community made this really awesome tool. So if you're thinking about starting a HEX staking ladder, or especially if you're in the planning phases, I strongly recommend this tool just to give you a visual representation of what a staking ladder really is and really show you the power of the long-term thinking that goes behind HEX. And if HEX continues to play out like it's been playing out, obviously, this relies on increasing numbers of adoption, more people getting in, increased demand, more advertising, and the community is already doing such a great job of all this. On top of the Pulse chain launch, the increasing number of unique stakers per day, the increasing average weighted stake length. There's so much bullish news to talk about in HEX, and there's so much going for it. But I just do have to disclaim that this obviously relies on the projected USD value of HEX going up in the future. But if you're confident like I am that it will go up in the future and will continue to for years, similar to how Bitcoin does and similar to how most cryptocurrencies scale with adoption of that cryptocurrency, then you can make a safe bet that this tool might give you a good readout of what your future possibilities might look like. So it's a really simple and easy to navigate site. It's called stakehex.today. That's stakehex.today. No spaces, no capitals, just a very simple URL. And you can go right here to this homepage and you can connect your MetaMask wallet, but you don't really need to. You can also just copy and paste your MetaMask wallet in here. Now, connecting your wallet or pasting your address into this website is only going to read the contents of your wallet and show you how your stakes look if you already have any stakes. But if you're new to the whole thing, this website is particularly interesting because you can create a projection of what some test stakes might look like based on the total USD value you want to do, the total USD value you want to put in, the number of stakes you want to make, and the maximum days you want to stake for. So I'm picking a pretty easy example right here. Let's say I'm a new person coming into HEX and I have $10,000 I want to throw into HEX, and I want to split this up with one stake a year for the next 10 years. Well, that would be a total of 3,650 days because you just multiply 365 times 10. And obviously that would be one stake per year, which would equal 10 stakes. So basically I'd have a $1,000 worth of HEX stake coming out every year. Now today it actually shows me this would buy me 3.51 trillion T-shares, and you'll get to see the power visually represented of T-shares in the next screen. So hang on for a minute and I'm going to talk about it. And the bonus that you're going to get multiplied is 2.1x and that's based on the longer pays better bonus and the bigger pays better bonus, because as we know in HEX, bigger stakes earn more T-shares and longer stakes earn more T-shares. And the T-shares give you more payouts in terms of APY, which is obviously paid out in more HEX. So this is a little bit advanced. I'm assuming you already know a little bit about HEX. If you're brand new to it, I do have a course. And if you're really brand new, just go to my older videos and you can learn some of the basics. But once you really understand what staking is and the T-share system and everything, you can come here and see, based on some projected USD value, how much HEX would that buy you today at a price of 31 cents? And how many stakes would you need to do? And for how long do you want to do them? So this is my example ladder that anybody could do. Based on how much you have or how little you have, your numbers might change. But this is what we're going to use. So we're going to go view, right? Very simple. And here is a very nicely laid out dashboard of all this cool stuff that you can see about your projected value of HEX. And you can see, I know this number looks crazy and we're going to talk about that, but the projected USD value after 10 years could be as high as $7 million. Now, could be, right? Obviously, like I said, it's not a guarantee that the price goes up, but given the bullishness of HEX and the vast number of good things going for it, we're still pre-viral in HEX, right? Less than 1% of the population even knows about HEX. Imagine if 1% of the population even got in. I mean, we only have 60,000 stakers in the ecosystem, so we're less than 2 years old as a coin. And so when we're projecting this value, we're actually being a little conservative in terms of the dollar value over time. So look at this pink line right here. This pink line represents the current price of HEX and the price chart of HEX since it launched back in December 2nd, 2020. And you can see that it's got its ups and downs. HEX has wild volatility, very high up and down volatility. But in the past 2 years, just under 2 years, it's gone up and to the right overall from a low price of, 0.00001 cents to all the way as high as 31 cents. So this is pretty crazy and we're just getting started. Now you can toggle these toggles right here and say, let's say I'm projecting HEX to be triple its value in about another year, right? About 96 cents, maybe midway through 2022, right? Let's put HEX at like $1 in 2022. At the rate it's been going, that's very, very conservative, because we could see the slope of this line on average is a lot higher. That's the dotted pink line here. That's the average best fit line for the slope of HEX and how far it's gone up and to the right. But as time goes on, things don't go up and to the right as fast anymore. So we can imagine that maybe things might taper off as, more money gets into this thing and it becomes harder to push the price up. But let's say, by the end of 2022, HEX is at around $1, right? And let's say, we can also toggle the secondary price toggle here. And we could say maybe after 5 more years, maybe it goes from $1 to $20, right? And this is a very conservative estimate. Look at how flat I'm starting to make the pink line, right? I'm making it very, very flat on purpose here because I like to be conservative. But we can see here that you're earning $6 interest per day, and you're projecting to get 118,000 HEX at the end of your stake. And remember, you only put in $10,000 worth of HEX, which today will buy you 31,854 total HEX. So, you're over tripling your quantity of HEX. And if the price continues to go up like it already has been, even if it goes up at a slower rate, being conservative, your final projected USD value after 10 years is $2,300,109. So this really shows you guys, if you have the patience and the belief in the system that it's going to work out, there's a lot of money to be made here. There's still a lot of opportunity on the table. To me, I just think it's kind of foolish to ignore what's happening right now in HEX. I mean, it's a phenomenon. Whether you like it or not, it's here to stay. And it's here to stay for many years because 60,000 people have already locked up for an average of over 5 years, expressing their belief in the coin for longer than 5 years. That's longer than any financial product I know of right now. So people are hardcore believers in HEX. And with the amount of advertising going on, and again, the Pulse Chain launch, bringing in even more adoption with, zero fees and instantaneous transactions, the ecosystem is going to be thriving as if it's not thriving already. Right. And there's another toggle that you can mess with for the projected values as well, which is the HEX payout per T-share. Now, we're assuming for a long time that it remains around 6 HEX per T-share per HEX. But in about 5 years, maybe more, by the 10th year, we're projecting the default projection is 19.2 HEX per T-share. And that's because a lot of big stakes are going to be coming out. And as that happens, the price of T-shares goes up and the payout per HEX and the HEX payout per T-share actually goes up near the later end of this 10-year life cycle. And you can actually see broken up into every individual year. Year 1, your projected HEX interest would be, about $500. Your principal would be worth about $3,800, and your total would be worth about $4,319, right? And that was off a $1,000 stake, because remember, each of these 10 were $1,000 because we just divided $10,000 by 10 because we made 10 stakes. So in 2023, this starts to rise exponentially, right? While you made a 4.3x in year 1, theoretically, from your $1,000 investment, in 2023, you'd make a 16x. In 2024, you'd make a 54x, 139x, 176x, etc. until your very final HEX stake in 2031, 10 years from today, is projected to be an insane amount of $66,000 in principal, but $502,000 in interest. And the reason that interest is so high is because you're taking the risk, right? You are taking the leap of faith that you're vowing to not sell HEX and thus hold up the price by taking HEX out of circulation and off of the circulating supply. And you're rewarded a simulated version of compound interest, essentially, which is why, the principal grows with price, obviously, but the interest grows with price on top of being exponential because of the way that T-shares work, because it becomes more and more expensive every day to buy T-shares in HEX terms, So every T-share costs more HEX every day. And HEX is projected to be worth more in the future than it is today. And it's really as simple as that. If you don't believe HEX is going to be worth more than it is today in the future, then, don't even get in. Don't get in HEX at all. But if you want to be part of what I believe to be the greatest revolution in cryptocurrency since Bitcoin, in terms of store of value and long-term holding and believers, I think we've reached critical mass already. And I think we have yet to see HEX even go viral. So I think these numbers are conservative, right? Let's say we get to $1 a little bit faster, right? And we get to, maybe we see HEX as high as $100 someday. Maybe that's 10 years from now, right? But, it sounds crazy, but Bitcoin went from a penny to $65,000, right? If I told you that Bitcoin would be worth $65,000 in 2011, yeah, you would think that's crazy. But you would have also missed out on life-changing wealth and the biggest opportunity financially that the world has ever seen. So what HEX is really a store of value, just like Bitcoin, with game theory components worked in so that People are incentivized to hold the price up. They're penalized if they take their HEX out early and break their vow that they set to themselves. And if they break their vow that they set with a smart contract, they can be penalized, sometimes their entire HEX stack. But getting back to the dashboard, right, the projected value could look like this, right? And we're looking at it on a yearly scale. We could switch that to months. We could also switch that to days. Just so that you could see on these stakes down here, you can dive into the exact day that your stake would be coming out, right? Or if you only want to toggle months, you could see these are all going to come out in October 2025, 26, 27. Most of the time October 25th, and eventually it'll be October 24th. And you can look at things in terms of USD value or HEX value. Now, HEX value is cool because it just shows you basically the quantities increasing for your interest, but the quantity of your principal always remains the same. And with USD, we get to see what's really fun. We get to see the increase in USD value and how that affects the HEX on top of it, right? So increasing USD value increases your HEX principal every year. But remember, not only does it increase your interest on HEX every year, but the longer pays better bonuses increase the APY of HEX that you get every year. So that's two things that are increasing this interest, and that's why the green boxes here, the interest boxes, are increasing at a much faster rate than the gray boxes, which are the principal boxes. And obviously the blue boxes are the totals. So just a really good way to break up your stake ladder system visually and play around with a bunch of different numbers. You know, if I wanted to make 100 stakes instead of just 10, I could see what that would look like too. Now, this is a lot of stakes, right? This is a lot, and it's really, quite frankly, way too much for anybody to do right now because gas fees are so high. But when Pulse Chain comes along, you can start thinking about, well, if it only cost me a penny to make a stake rather than $50 to $100, maybe you do want to make stake ladders with more stakes in them, because 100 stakes might only cost you $5 or $10 as opposed to thousands of dollars like it would cost today. So you could really get fancy here and really play around with numbers. But again, it's just fun to play around with the projected value of HEX, and even more fun if you try to predict, you know, the S-curve of adoption and how that's going to affect price. Because right now in HEX, we're kind of at the bottom of the hockey stick and we're just starting to go parabolic. But with the S-curve of adoption, things do go parabolic for a while, but they gradually taper off when enough people have adopted it. So that's why the shape of this line looks steep at first and does gradually slow down, because obviously HEX can't just go exponential forever, but it scales relative to the number of people in the world that have been exposed to HEX. And look, if we see $1,000 HEX one day, guys, your $10,000 investment today could still be worth $100 million one day, right? I know it sounds crazy, but that's what Bitcoin did. That's literally what Bitcoin did, right? So if we're being very conservative and we only see $100 HEX, then hey, you made $11 million off of a $10,000 investment, and it only took you 10 years. So if you can be patient and have the long-term vision and the strong diamond hands that HEX really takes, you know, this is a great representation of how the money in HEX is made. And if you don't have the long-term vision, if you've got weak paper hands, and if you don't think HEX is going to go up in the future, well, then HEX probably isn't for you. So make sure you check out stakehex.today if you're interested in creating a staking ladder. And shouts out to the developers behind this because they really did a great job. Now, I don't know who the developers of this are, but you can talk to the developers in the Telegram channel, which is right below this website here. And I'd just like to make a shout out to whoever you are, developers. Great job with this. You've really outdone yourself. And I'm really excited to show this to many, many people as they're thinking about starting their staking ladder, because this is the best tool that I've seen by far, with the cleanest UI and really the best representation of the power of T-shares and the power of the exponential growth that HEX has to offer. Thanks, and I'll see you on the next video.